Students threaten a nationwide shutdown over suggestions of a 6% fee increase for tertiary education. But government warns taxpayers will bear the brunt if there's no hike in 2017. This is eNews Direct. Good evening. I'm Shahan Ramkisu.
And I'm Sandy Lekangose. Good evening.
To comment on our stories, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at eNews Direct.
And tonight our hashtags are Fees Commission and University Fees.
All right, our top stories now. National Treasury says South Africans must be prepared to face the consequences if money is reallocated to ensuring free tertiary education for all. It made submissions to the Fees Commission in Johannesburg earlier today.
This Fees Commission will advise if free higher education in the country is achievable. It was appointed by President Jacob Zuma following the Fees Must Fall movement. Zuma also announced that there would be a 0% increase in university tuition this year. However, the National Treasury has made it clear that it didn't budget for the same thing in 2017.
We've budgeted on the basis that we will return to the situation of normal fee increases. But of course we remain seized with the issue and we will be prepared to respond to changes if they're there.
This will likely be met with discontent by some students. Sachs told the Commission that economic growth and inflation were revised in the light of this year's 0% increase. He adds that the country owes 2 trillion to investors and warns that if taxes are raised or funds reallocated, there will be consequences.
We deliver social grants, we deliver healthcare, we deliver basic education, and as I've said, all of these things in the system have to be financed either by shifting resources from those priorities or by taxation. And if we all understand that, I'm sure that all of us can reach an agreement.
Sachs also cautions that a no-fee increase will mostly benefit wealthy students. Lindo Sitole, Van der Bell Park.
The ANC has been dealt a serious blow in 4 hung municipalities in the Karoo in the Western Cape. The DA has formed coalition governments with 3 smaller parties to come out tops. It's the first time the ANC has lost the Beaufort West municipality. The DA made the announcement in Cape Town today.
The DA emerging with its new coalition partners. The DA and the ANC were neck and neck in Beaufort West, Prince Albert and Laingsburg municipalities following the recent local government elections. Now the DA has gone into coalition with the Karoo Democratic Force, the Karoo Gemeenskap Party and the Karoo Ontwikkelings Party to govern in these areas.
I think the voters have spoken. They've given the mandate to our coalition partners and to the DA, and we are going to work together to make sure that we pull the whole region together.
Without an outright majority, both the DA and the ANC turned to smaller parties. The Kingmakers explain why they chose the DA over the ANC.
It marks the end of ANC corruption in the Central Karoo region. Truman's ANC is no more. Top-killing ANC corruption is now a thing of the past.
With coalitions often rocky, Delil says they have a plan to address this.
We will have a special political committee that discuss issues before it goes onto the council agenda, see consensus there. If that political committee cannot find any consensus, then it's escalated up to the provincial structures, and then finally it will be escalated up to the national structures. So we've made provision for all of those mechanisms so that the municipalities can run smoothly.
The coalition agreements will become official after the first council seating. Bonga Dlulane, Cape Town.
All right, our top story now. Talks concerning tertiary fee hikes after a rocky start. Higher Education Minister Bladen Nzimande was supposed to have made a decision on 2017 increases today, but that didn't happen. Now, students are threatening a nationwide shutdown of institutions from Monday.
Protests in 2015 led to students not having to pay fee hikes this year. But it's left the country's tertiary institutions in financial ruin. So university bosses have met up with Higher Education Minister Bladen Nzimande, apparently suggesting a 6% fee increase next year. But that's not going down well with students.
Unapologetic, we outrightly rejected that report of the Council of Education because ours is a no-fee increment, which ultimately our primary goal is to reach free education. So we're not entertaining any form of fee increment.
The Higher Education Department says it's caught between a rock and a hard place.
It doesn't have any money sitting there that can finance the no-fee increase. So that's why the issue of adjustment is an important issue, and students must accept that, and parents at home must accept that.
But the South African Union of Students is having none of it. Even without a final decision on fee increases, it's declaring war.
Also taking the fight to the private sector, the Chamber of Mines, Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We're still resolute in our posture and in our approach as the union. And from Monday, we'll start closing all institutions of higher learning.
Students are refusing to back down. They say last year's fees must fall protests were nothing compared to what they have planned for next week. Leranzo Temba, Pretoria.
The ANC's top brass is currently holding a marathon 4-day meeting to take stock of its declining support. The governing party secured 54% of the national vote in last week's local government elections, but failed to clinch the required majority in 4 metros and several other towns across the country. In some hung councils like Rustenburg in the northwest, the party's losses appear to have been worsened by rampant internal strife.
This rustic village of Barseba was the site of a fierce electoral contest between the candidate for the little-known Forum for Service Delivery and one backed by the might of the ANC. A contest that, to a large extent, has its genesis in the internal workings of the governing party. Cousins Nkepile and Khomotso Musi were the foot soldiers in this electoral showdown.
Then 1, 2, 3, Heruna Sindri Ricobong, Rotoba, and Removutela Mopalok Piping as a council. Then no Claralafusi delivering. This way,
That's the group, made up mainly of disillusioned current and former ANC members, secured 4 seats in Rustenburg, perhaps attests to the party's troubles in the province.
In the province, no, it's not fine at all. It's not fine. The province is leading the government like in Zimbabwe. They want to become Mugabe. They control.
The ANC also struggled in the Platinum Belt. This Freedom Park resident says one of the ANC's biggest weaknesses is that its leaders close ranks, even in the face of glaring misdeeds.
City Castel City siyakhele umuzi because ukuthi wazimali ze-tax. Xa izawuphinda the province vambi. Hayi sasizawudropa asiyazi naloo nto bayaphele lapha. Thetha ukuthi ke City Castel sithi loo nto yenziwa yi-ANC.
Amandla! Whether the party's provincial leaders hear these voices is hard to gauge from their statement on the elections, which says that the people of the Northwest have once again shown confidence in the ANC without flinching, and makes no reference to the poor showing in places like Rustenburg. Thulasizwe Simelane, Rustenburg.
Moving to world news now, Thai police on standby for further attacks after multiple explosions last night and this morning left at least 4 people dead. Dozens were also injured in what appeared to be a series of coordinated blasts across Thailand, including the tourism hotspots of Hua Hin and Phuket. No one has claimed responsibility for the bombings, but authorities ruled out international terrorism and said any links to the country's southern insurgency are unclear. Vote counting is underway after Zambia's presidential and parliamentary elections. It's expected to be a tight race between the governing Patriotic Front and the opposition United Party for National Development. For the first time, a presidential candidate must win more than 50% of the vote to avoid a runoff. And an international team of scientists say they've identified a shark which might be around 400 years old. The female was among 28 Greenland sharks. They aged using radiocarbon dating. They're believed to have a long lifespan because of their sluggish growth rate and their leisurely pace of life in the icy deep waters of the North Atlantic. All right, thanks very much, Sandile. Here's what people are talking about. The National Freedom Party will take disciplinary action against its treasurer. Leaders say Xolani Ndlovu was responsible for the NFP's disqualification from the municipal polls. The party's general secretary and national chairperson resigned before facing disciplinary action. More than 200 of its councillors are now jobless. The NFP is also focusing on holding an elective conference in December. The owner of the Killer Fields Hill truck will return to the dock next month. Gregory Govender of Sage Cal Logistics made his second appearance in the Verulam Magistrates Court today. He's charged with operating unroadworthy vehicles and contravening the Immigration Act following the gruesome 2013 crash that claimed 24 lives. Govender's driver, Sanela May, was convicted and sentenced to 8 years in prison in 2014. He was in the country illegally and had only been employed by Govender for a few days at the time of the crash. All right, to comment on these stories and more, check out our Twitter and Facebook pages at eNews Direct or go to eNCA.com/direct. After the break, your business news and weather forecast. Welcome back. Business news now. A potentially damaging strike has been averted at Eskom. Marathon wage talks have broken a deadlock between the power utility and 3 unions. Solidarity and the National Union of Mine Workers have signed agreements with Eskom. Workers will receive an increase of between 8.5% and 10% this year, and next year they'll get a pay rise of 8%. NUMSA has not yet signed the agreement but has accepted the offer in principle. All right, time now to see how the markets performed today. Your weather forecast up next with Louis Fernandez.
Welcome to the Weather Centre, everyone. Our satellite imagery shows a weak cold front moved over the Western Cape today, bringing cloud cover and some rainfall to the province. While it was mostly sunny for the rest of the country, temperatures rose above 25 degrees all across the northern and far eastern parts of South Africa. A quick glance at what's happening in the South Atlantic Ocean, and we do have another cold front that's busy developing that will make landfall very late on Saturday night along the west coast of South Africa. In KwaZulu-Natal, Saturday is going to be warm to hot for most areas, 32 degrees for Ulundi and Richards Bay. Cooler in the south, 24 is a maximum for Port Shepstone, along with a bit of cloud cover in your area. Partly cloudy and mild weather expected for the Eastern Cape on Saturday. A few early morning showers possible for the western parts of the province. And in the Western Cape, it's going to be a cool day for many areas over this region. Rain settling in later on over the western parts, including around Cape Town, with a high of only 16. Much cooler air is going to be moving in over the western parts of the Northern Cape. There is a possibility for early morning drizzle around Springbok, and a high of only 13 has been forecast for your area. Temperatures still low to start off the day over the Free State, but warming up quickly for the afternoon. And it's certainly a day for outdoor activities in the northwest. Another sunny and warm afternoon expected for this province. After a chilly morning in Limpopo, we're going to see things warming up quickly as well. 4 degrees to start off your day throughout the central parts of this province, including Bella Bella, which will get to a high of 27 later. We'll see a little bit of high-level cloud moving in onto the Mpumalanga Highveld later. Otherwise, it's going to be a mostly sunny day for the province, and we'll see very similar conditions into Gauteng. Pretoria gets to 25, Johannesburg 24 degrees your high. For the second half of the weekend, not too much changing. Cooler and wet weather remaining in place for parts of western South Africa. Very cold for Sutherland, a maximum of only 9 degrees. And for Monday, wet weather spreads into KZN, cooling things down. 21 as a high for Durban, and a few showers possible for Bloemfontein in the Free State.
Coming up after the break, as the midnight oil was burned during the public protector interviews, a few sleepy MPs and journalists were caught taking cat naps. Welcome back. It appears some took serious strain during last night's marathon public protector interviews.
I did indeed see that. The 19-hour-long session led to some MPs getting caught napping, and of course our cameras were there.
Many question the wisdom of having 14 candidates interview for public protector in one day. From 7 a.m. in the morning to 3 a.m. the next morning, MPs grilled prospective candidates. And it wasn't long before the effects started to show. First, eyes became tired, and then they got heavy. And at times, it was best to give up the fight and catch a quick catnap. And it's not only MPs who were feeling the strain. Weary journalists also needed to get some shut-eye. After 19 hours, it was all done. Many grateful the long day was over.
I just want to thank you on behalf of the committee. Thank you very much for sitting throughout this time. Thank you. I'm hoping that you will have some time to rest.
Lester Kivett, Parliament.
Here's a reminder of our top stories before we go. Students threaten a nationwide shutdown over suggestions of a 6% fee increase for tertiary education. But government warns taxpayers will bear the brunt if there's no hike in 2017. And that's a wrap from the eNews Direct team.
It is indeed. Up next, Rhythm City.
And if you missed any of our stories tonight, you can always catch us on eNCA.com/eNews Direct.
And our weekend news bulletin comes live from Cape Town at 7 p.m. Until then, good night.